What is up, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in to another episode of Expert Mentors Live 282. And we've got the one and only Miss Tina Caul back in the house with us. I really appreciate you jumping in. I know you're being, saying, like you said before we jumped on, saying no a little bit more this year to things. And I love that. I think, there was a statistic that PBD shared on the podcast yesterday on the Patrick Bet David on his podcast. And it was a statistic going all the way back. And I love your take on this too, going all the way back to 1910. And it talked about kind of the percentage of attention that is us as humans. And I don't know if you saw the study, but it was from a consumption and learning standpoint, a percentage of waking time on content. So he said learning, but I don't think it's learning. I think it's just information. And it could be noise, it could be valuable or invaluable. But in 1910, it was 10% of the waking time. And to today, it's 80% of the waking time is spent on consumption of information. And so, like, how do people get anything done if you're spending 80% of your time consuming content and information?
Yeah, that's the big theme for this year for me, John. It's like, I really had to take a step back and say, how do I slow down? Because I think our brains are wired to consume. And especially if you have an analytical brain and you're like, oh my God, I love to learn. I think you're like me. We love to learn. And so I think because our mind is so distracted, then we put a book or an Audible or Instagram or something in our face to keep ourselves occupied. And I think we're so distracted these days that people lost their joy. They lost their sense of self. They don't even know what makes them happy anymore. And I think, when I think back, thousands of years, we only had nature and ourselves. We had quiet time. We would, if you said, hey, I'm going to invite you over to lunch or dinner, it's because I saw you in a village and invited you a week later. And then I got in my horse buggy carriage and, rode to your house for 45 minutes. And then we sat down by candlelight. Like, we had a lot of time to be in our own head. And now we've lost that. And so Kevin and I are on a mission of peace, but peace inside, inner peace.
Well, and that's where it starts, right? It's the whole, you can't lead and coach another human until you can coach and, lead yourself first. And, first rule of leadership, lead by example. So how are you, making yourself the best version of you? And oxygen mask concept, right? Why do you put your oxygen mask on first? And I think, it's that introspective and deep dive. And I think, where you make yourself like extremely impactful, right? You can be valuable, but how are you impactful? That's the inner workings. That's the high level of emotional intelligence and just understanding yourself at a high level. And it was interesting. I watched as did many, the conversation with you and Brent and Leo and Glenn to kind of kick the year off. And one thing that I noticed when I was paying attention, and I was looking at all the previous expert mentors that you and I have had over the years. This is number 7, the 7th expert mentors of having you on. But I was just looking at kind of the conversations, what we talked about, and then the conversation there, and it's an evolution. Yeah. And I just see you as a human and as a leader, just in our conversations over the years, just what you talked about on that episode, and just kind of where you're at, and to your whole point there, saying no and being more self-reflective. And it's just really cool to see, that continuous growth. And to me, it's right. I mean, it's the direction that we all really need to go down and go down that path if we really want to, live an impactful life.
Totally. Thank you for noticing that. I think all of us, we're just, I always think like I'm so underqualified to do most of the things that I start. And I'm just like an airplane in the air with duct tape on the wings. I'm like, we're going, let's go, and start before you're ready. And so, I love to learn and grow. And again, I'm still going to make a ton of mistakes, but I need to lead in a way where it's like vulnerabilities there. And I go through shit just like everyone else. And, but I just try to figure it out and do the best I can.
So from an evolution standpoint, for you and in the business side of things, where is the direction and the growth? Where do you see, the evolution of this industry, the business, and how organizations are going to be ran, and things that are obviously your crystal ball that you have with you, but kind of the direction that you're leading yourself and the organization into this second half of the decade, really.
Yeah, I think for me, when I really study the history, the evolution of just being a real estate agent, a salesperson, if you look at the 1990s, most agents were on 50-50 splits, even at big box brokerages. And so the concept of like making more, making more, making more, making more, as the brokerages started to evolve and seeing the power that the agent brought to the table, they started to give the agent more, meaning more commissions, but something's got to give because, as running a business, you keep giving, you got to take away experience, you got to take away support, you got to take away services. So I think what happened was we started to all, we went from 50-50 Coldwell Banker in 1905 to Century 21 70-30 to Remax 5% to Keller Williams 70-30 plus, profit share and other thing, and the capping, which was an industry massive change in 1984. They've been around 40 years with that cap. Now people are starting to cap at traditional brokerages. What I see now, the next evolution is the teamridge, the brokerage that functions as a team that gives back all the services, all the support, all the training, all the camaraderie, all the feeling of collaboration that brokerages of the past could have had, but there wasn't enough financial weight to be able to give that to the agents. And so now I'm looking at, bigger is not always better. Our team had almost 70 agents on it at one point. We were Zillow Flex team. I didn't like the way it was going. I felt it lost its heartbeat. Veronica says this so well. You kind of give your heart to you give your heart up too fast to the wrong people, and that happened to me as well. It was like, here, just you guys run it. I'm good. I've got this going on. And so this is my year of coming back to say, no, this is our team. We built this. This is the core foundation of who we are. These are our standards and principles. We're not going to lose that. I'm one that I'm so hard on myself. I want to be efficient. I want to always be growing. I want to be excellent in anything I do. That's what I want our organization to be. And so now we've shrunken to about 40 agents. We're only hiring agents that are proven agents. They've had to have deals now. They come in and, we don't just keep everyone because they're nice. If I've kept everyone that was really nice, we'd have 300 agents on my team and we'd have to rename our team to just a big box brokerage. That's how most brokerages operate. So I think we're going to see the shrinking of independent brokerages, the shrinking of traditional brokerages, the agents understanding that if I go position myself with an operator that understands how to leverage my current business and then add to it, that I'm going to make more money. I mean, I have agents on my team making $400,000 or $500,000 a year. Like they're making almost as much as what we net, So I think that my goal is to bring in an agent and then show them how I can build their sphere for them, how I can add another deal a month to their sphere, which is another 12 deals a year on top of their 12, and then another deal a month to 2 deals a month with the machine that we've built. So they can go from, selling 12 homes to 42 homes. And the other thing is sometimes they say, I'm scared of that, Tina. I don't want to sell 42 homes. Well, you're not going to sell them right away. It's a 24-month blossoming. You're going to be a caterpillar first. You'll turn into a butterfly. But I know when my coach used to say, I can get you from 40 to 100, it was the opportunity to learn how to delegate and take things off my plate and learn to trust. When you trust people and you say, you can do this for me and I trust you, you're going to see that the least amount of things you can do and stay in your competencies, you're going to just explode. And so that's what our team is now. We're like, let's get our agents to 30, 40, 50, 60 deals. Let's show them how to leverage. Let's give them all the support. And if they can make an amazing living, I know that they can outsell and have happiness more so than a solo agent struggling to sell 12 to 30 homes doing it all themselves.
100%. And I think, it's also that value exchange and looking for the right individual. So to your point, it has to start, to me, it starts and stops on values, core values and principles and alignment, right? If you're out of whack there, it's just not going to work. It's just
Right.
inevitable. And I think, for folks listening in, get those core values dialed in, and your people have to be more than 50% of your values. So if you have 6 core values that hire, fire, train, coach, lead, make decisions on, then your people have to align with at least 4 of them. If they have 3
Totally.
or less, they're not going to work.
Right.
But that's where character and trust come in.
Yeah.
And I think if you evaluate character and trust, then we'll measure the skills and the other attributes and the things that you bring. And there's a standard there to be able to tap into the resources in the machine that you built.
Yeah.
And so to your point too, like you said, I I think, like you said, nice. I don't like nice. I like kind, but I
Yeah.
don't like nice. Nice to me, when I hear that, hey, I'm being nice, to me, that's being fake. You're not being
Yeah.
authentic. You're not being genuine.
Yeah.
I want kind people around me. And
Right.
I always joke, right? Like Leanne's like, will you explain to the kids what kind and nice, the difference is? And I said, well, a kind person will tell you that you got food in your teeth.
Right.
A nice person will just say, you look great. And
Exactly.
go on. So I think it's super important to be able to have that distinction and have the right people that are willing to do the work, because it's a different beast right now. And you and
Totally.
I've been playing the game long enough. We know the cycles. And one of my favorite distinctions is from Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And you have peacetime generals and you have wartime generals.
Yeah.
And we need a wartime general. And that doesn't mean that you lead with an iron fist. You lead by example, but you have standards and accountability.
Yeah.
And that's really what people need a lot of right now. Is they need a lot of just direction. They need great leadership. And you and I've talked about this before. It's your obligation. You have to lead the entire transaction. You have to lead the other agent. You have to lead the other clients. You have to lead title. You have to lead the lenders. You have to lead the inspectors. Yes, that is your job. You have to lead through this. And like I said, your evolution and as a leader, so spot on, right? Leadership to me is like one of the most critical skills that we have to arm ourselves with and constantly develop. And you guys are, definitely well on that path into that direction. So let me ask you kind of a technical question, because they hear that, right? So, I go to, okay, well, what is a fair value exchange from compensation? And to your point, like the 24 months. So as a leader, guys, you have to be able to frame in ours was, hey, on target earnings. You're going to make more in your first year in the second 6 months than you will the first 6 months being here. And
Right.
then that going into year 2, and then the second half of year 2, let's look at that. I need to frame that to you so you understand. How do you articulate that? How do you show, and what is a fair compensation exchange for the value you provide?
I think it's again, it's just a matter of showing them that success takes time. It's a cliche, right? We've heard it a million times, but
Sure.
I don't think it sinks in. And it's how do I take this? If it's a brand new agent, there's the first. I don't know if you saw my passion pyramid, John, which
Yeah,
I
we talked about it on the last episode you
okay.
and I did here. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing. Mhm.
And so, well, just that feeling of like the foundation is the process. I've got to teach you the process of learning this. Then we've got to second phase is practice, then having patience, and then you're going to be empowered, and then you'll finally have passion and purpose in your job. So the exchange is, to me, most of the agents that stay on our team, they've been there 11 years, 9 years, 7 years, 8 years. Like we've got my first 5 agents are still with us today. And it's because they've always adapted and grown in their own leadership journey. I've had to push them and say, no, you're going to speak. You're going to help EXP do a buyer's presentation. We're always trying to find opportunities for them to to be uncomfortable. And they embrace that now. Like, I'm so proud of 5, 6, 7 of them that have really, grown and evolved. And that's the exchange. That's the value, is somebody believes in you to keep pushing you. And who's in your corner doing that? Who's in your corner making you better and pushing you into those opportunities? So it's got to be, yes, a value exchange from, hey, you're going to have a TC service for me and you're going to be there when I need you. But what is the environment of value? Is Ashley on our team will say, for her, she said, just being around your energy helps me continue to elevate, because you're always pushing yourself. So if you're here, I'm here, and you're then moving here, and so she's just always trying to keep up. Maybe she wasn't ready to grow as fast, but she's just like you said, I'm completely different from 7 years ago when we met. She's completely different from 9 years ago when I met her. And she didn't want any of this, and she just slowly evolved, not even realizing she was evolving. So I think set and setting is huge. Your environment is huge, because if you have a leader that's constantly pushing growth for themselves, you can't help but just follow along. And there's value in that. Now, if you have a leader that's just commanding, demanding, they're worried about the buck. I had an agent that joined us, and she said her last team leader was like, you guys got to sell more homes. I got to pay my bills here. Oh, that's so inspiring. That's ridiculous. Like, my thing is, I don't need you guys to sell one home. I don't even need this team, to be honest. Like, I get to be here. I don't have to be here. And so I've decided to be here on this journey when I have to deal with all the issues and problems and, things that we have to deal with on a daily basis, but I get to do that. And so that's why, like, this year, I'm very mindful about, like, gossip and, people that are complaining about this or that. I know that always happens, but it's their responsibility to co-create the environment. I'm trusting you in this environment that I've tried to create. You're a co-creator. If you're bitching and moaning and complaining and pointing and saying, well, they must be successful because they got this or that handed to them, please leave. It's just not the right mentality for our team. So I'm just very much, after coming back from Costa Rica, one of my truths that I got to see in the mirror was I was actually too nice. I knew what I wanted to say, and I'm a kind person, but I was not being that leader that said, hey, you've got shit in your teeth. And that's who I am naturally as a person. So I was diminishing that because I was too afraid to, maybe they won't like me, or maybe, they will, I don't know, just appeal to everyone. And you just can't do that. And so, so I've grown from that.
So being able to grow through that, I think, most of us struggle with, how do we have that conversation? Is that something that you've had to learn how to step into that conversation?
Oh my God. I call them now, I love feedback. So if you're like, Tina, you sucked at that podcast, or you could have done better on stage here, I want that. In fact, we've all asked each other, like, how do we get better? So I seek that, but I realized in the past that I was more redirected by people that were not willing to have feedback, or they turn things around. Like, I love self-development tests and assessments. And so when you're not ready to self-develop and somebody asks you to do an assessment and you're just worried about all your weaknesses and you're focusing on that and not your strengths, like, it can mentally mess with people. I love to do that with people, but I realized not everyone wants that feedback. Not everyone's ready for that self-development. So because of that, I pulled back as giving feedback as a leader, because I was sort of like, oh my God, if I make people cry or they're uncomfortable, I can see when people are uncomfortable when you're giving them feedback. So then I kind of backed off. Now I treat them as, hey, John, I want to have a developmental conversation with you. It's just development. That's all it is. It's not feedback, because feedback feels like a punishment. Hey, I want to tell you what you're doing wrong, John. I want to give you feedback. I think feedback's the same as a PIP. I'm going to put you on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. If I bring an agent to my team, you're on a PIP from day one. Don't you want to performance improve your plan every day? Like,
every day you're on a PIP. Yeah.
Be on a PIP. Give me the t-shirt, So as a leader, it's just changing and reframing things that people had negative connotations with, to say, okay, can we have a developmental conversation? And now they're like, yeah, what are we developing? You are developing you, so.
No, I love that. You got to name it. And that was one of our early mentors that really pushed us around the leadership side of things. Clayton Mask, CEO at Infusionsoft, now it's Keep. And they called it buckle up. can we have a buckle up conversation? And so we use that. And I think understanding, the first rule of communication is get permission. And it's the whole gate of the mind closed and open. And if you get permission, then, the gate of the mind is going to be open. And, my coach gave me, the get real scenario. So I just say, hey, can we have a real conversation? And just really going into it that way. And I think when you learn how to be able to have difficult conversation, it has a ripple down effect on improving a lot of different skills. It improves your sales skills. It improves your negotiation skills. It improves your leadership skills. It improves, so many things that for us as leaders. And listen, everybody on here, you got every one of you is a leader. Even if you're on Tina's team, you're a brand new agent, you're still a leader. You're leading yourself. You have people looking to you for direction. They're looking to you for influence, for inspiration. If you're a parent, you're a leader, right? You're leading other people. And learning how to have those difficult conversations, and there's a right way to be able to walk into it to where it's not weaponized. It's a really constructive way to be able to continue to develop. So looking at, kind of on the business mechanic side of things, where can you get in trouble by giving too much of, what is too much that we can give that really hurts us on the business side of things? I've seen a lot of, people try to build on 75-25s, and it's just, there's not enough math at the end of the day to make it work. Where does that, what is right?
Do you mean like systems in your business, or just like, like personal development thing? Like, just, do you mean?
So for example, Tina, so like I've seen people try to build the compensation models around, letting the agents keep a massive amount, and they're trying to operate on very, very little.
Right.
And it's like, to your point, and that goes back to brokers, why they're broke is because they're giving all the money. There's no money at the end of the day. And so, where do agents feel like, man, this is well worth my investment of, you taking X% of my commission. I feel good about my investment with you.
Yeah, I think every team is different, right? So we're very, I am very much a yes leader. Like, we need this. Okay, let's figure out a way to get it. But in the last 5 or 6 years, where I've helped the agents, look at it from a leadership perspective, is if we keep saying yes to things, what are we saying no to? What are we removing? Maybe we're raising our fees. If you guys need this service, then we need to, bump up our transaction fee by $100. You guys good with that? Can you go, do that? Yes, we can. So I think it's a matter of them understanding the P&L. I have an open P&L with the agents, so they know that they keep 50%, let's just say, of let's say a Caul Group lead, or 70% of their sphere, whatever the team splits are. And Caul Group is going to retain about $2,000 per transaction on average. They know that if they're making 5, 6, 7, 8,000 per transaction, which they do make that, different levels of career, time invested, let's say, if they know I'm making 2 and they're making 7, it feels fair. Because the reality is, it's an open book. Like, I have to be profitable first. So people first, be kind, people first. Then it's, our business system services. And then it's, the net income. Like, that's my responsibility is cash flow, because a lot of these team leaders, they're going to go out of business within 5 to 10 years. It's just not fun to run in the red. And I'll never do that, because I would want my agents to have profitable businesses. They have to expect me to have a profitable business. So I think when they see that where the money is going, they feel like it's fair. And that's just how I've operated, that it's an open book.
What do you tell agents and team leads if they are running red right now? What do they need to change immediately? I know there's some seasonality, there's some things, there's built up pipelines. A lot of agents have like massive pipelines getting ready, people getting ready to come to market, but they're in the red. They're not profitable. Where do you tell them, hey, this first, then this?
Yeah. I think they have to understand that, and I tried to coach some of our agents through this. They're like, hey, we need to make more here or there. How could we be spending X amount here? Well, if you look at the last 5 or 6 years, our cost of goods sold, like everything's higher. A videographer right now for a nice, home shoot is $1,000. I used to pay $250 six
Yeah.
years ago, 5 years ago. My stager used to come over for $100. Now she's $250. To stage a house went from $2,000 to $4,000. Everything, the sign, putting a sign in the yard, it's $100 now. Everything's gone up. If you're a team leader and you haven't raised or lowered, like taken money away, if you're still at an 80-20 split and you're trying to give all these services, you're going to be in the red. So you have to just reevaluate, talk to other big team leaders, which if you're with EXP, there's, some of the best are here. Look at the most profitable ones, make sure that you're talking to a leader that actually maintains a 20% or more profitability. We're always between 20 and 25%, which is really good for a big team selling, 700-800 homes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So when you can look at those expenses, start cutting things out, getting more efficient, sometimes people have too much staff. Most of the time though, I see that they're giving their agents too much because their mentality is, I would never work for that. I catch leaders all the time going, well, I wouldn't work for that. You wouldn't, but they will, because you haven't sold the value of operations. Sit down with an agent and show them everything that is done, and then decide if what they want to partake in. Bring them in as a partner. Wait. You want 70, 80, 90% of this deal? Why don't you come just be my partner? Let's run this puppy together. Bring me your money and your credit card every month.
Yeah.
Then we'll talk about who gets what. And so they got to be entrepreneurs and understand that this is what their owner is going through. And when you open up those books, I think some of them fail to want to open them up because the vulnerability. Well, I don't want to show them that I'm not making money. Why?
Yeah. Show them you're not making money.
Show
and,
them.
and get a little bit of buy-in and understanding that we can row this boat together to get us on the path. And
Absolutely.
To your point there, Tina, the aha that I had around what you just said about, well, I would never work for that, was our marketing bled into multiple markets and separate MLSs. And so we were kind of shunned going over there. It was a really tight knit, like, you ain't one of us, get out of here.
Right.
So we had to find one of their own to be accepted. And we empowered her, put her in a fantastic position. And, she was out there hustling, and we a couple years down the road, we were like, why is she still with us? Like really, why is she still here? She can be doing this all on her own.
Mm.
And, you have the conversations and you look, and I'm like, So we start what you love to do. We start giving personality tests, discs, just everything that we can run them through. And we came across one that is one of my favorites, and it is from Les McCowan's book, Predictable Success. And he has the synergist, but he talks about predictable success and how do you get there, and how do you keep it, it's fun. And then you go through whitewater, and then you get to predictable success. And then there's the downside of it too, right? To where you fall off and, you're out of business. Yeah. But most mom and pops stay fun because it's reactive. There's no SOPs, there's no structure, there's no systems, there's no process. And that's what you got to get to, a balance of that in marketing to be a predictable success. But his assessment, if you guys are listening in, go take it. You can just Google predictable success quiz. And there's four character types. There's 4 character types that he talks about. Mm-hmm. One is the visionary, right? Which the visionary would say, I would never work for that. Well, you're building the company. Of course, you're the visionary. You would, that's you. You're doing your own thing. The other is the operator. The next is operator. And the operator is the person that will leave a wake of, they get shit done, but they leave a wake of destruction. And there's no rhyme or reason. They're like, I don't know. I just get done. I just get things done. They have high tenacity on the working genius, right? They're just tenacious.
Yeah.
And then the synergist is the Care Bear. They love everybody. They're your client experience person. They're the ones that are, they're exactly who they are on the Working Genius. And then you have the processor. Mm-hmm. And typically the visionary and the processor butt heads. And what we found with her, she was an off the chart D. So it was like, oh, D, she should be doing her own thing. And she's a redhead. And if you look up redhead in Google redhead, there's a picture of her that comes up, terror, like you stubborn, to the point, everything of a redhead. But when she went through the whole predictable success quiz, she scored the lowest on visionary. She was an off the chart operator. So when we were talking with her, we were like, she had no desire to do her own thing. She believed in what we were doing. She wanted to be a part of what we were trying to accomplish. Core value fit. She checked all the core values. She outworked, she worked harder than us. And that just the light bulb went off, is that, there's certain different people out there that want to be a part of something. It doesn't mean they want to go do their own thing. And as you're talking about the future of where companies and businesses are going, I think that's what you're looking for. You're looking for people that want to be a part of what you're doing. And that's what you've done. I mean, you attract people that want to be a part of your energy and the vision and what you're wanting to accomplish. So you mentioned something a little bit earlier, Tina. You said, I don't have to do this. My question is, why? Why do you do this?
For me, it is so fun because of the way I grew up. I grew up with not much. And I also grew up with the idea of not being a great student, not having a lot of confidence. But it wasn't that I wasn't smart in school. It was just that I wasn't interested in what they were teaching me. Once I realized, when I left school, and I realized I am a bookworm. I love self-development. Like, I love self-development. I wish I was a psychologist. I love studying neuroscience, behaviors. Like, that's my jam. And so I'm obsessed about it. So I'm not only a good student, I love to teach. And so because of that, I feel like, because I have that in me, like learner is one of my top 5 themes in StrengthsFinder. If I'm with people that don't read books, like my team, I will tell them, John, oh my God, read this book. It's so good. Read this book. And then I'll say, anybody started that book? Crickets.
Yep.
Like, come on, there's 45 of you. Not one started to read this book. I have told you 6 times. Like, they see the success pattern in life, and none of them will pick up a book. And you go, okay, so then if they're not going to pick up the book, my job then is to take what I've learned from this book and regurgitate it to them over and over and over again till they can memorize it in their brain, and they finally wake up to go, wow, yep, that is what I need to do. So I think it's just that. It's like, that's my job now, is just to regurgitate the things that I've learned. I'm not creating these things. I'm not a genius. And so I might take a concept and go, oh, I could restructure it this way so it's got a better understanding for somebody. But that's it. I love to learn, and now I get to throw it into their brains. I get to give them a great platform to make lots of money, and really just show them the life that they can have. Because I love my life. Like, knock on wood, I love my husband, my life. We're not perfect, but I'm shocked that it's turned out this well from when I was a kid. So I just believe, like, if I can do it, anyone can do this. And it all takes a strong mindset, right? I mean, that's it. It's not skill. It's will.
Yeah. It's mindset first. And I think, the sooner that you can, it's not the skills I need to develop. It's the sharpening of my mind and the things. And there's so many, paths and ways to go there, to get there. And, that's why I like doing the ultra marathon stuff, is because, you push yourself through 100 miles, and things in life just aren't that hard, right? Things that we think are so hard, and it just opens up, the gate of the mind to so many more possibilities. And I think it's also a confidence thing too, that you can push through anything challenging, because you have it in you to be able to do that. I want to get into what we were talking about before we hit go, and really around, I badass certified Mel Robbins, and how impactful. I think I saw where she said, finally she took over Rogan as the number one, podcast. And I thought that was just incredible. Going into kind of her story, and just fortunate enough to stumble upon her early on. And just, how amazing she is. And you had some great insight, and especially around her new concept and her new book. I would love for you to kind of let's get on to kind of the Mel Robbins bandwagon here for a second.
Well, Mel and I go way back. So no, she was one of the first people that helped me get over my fear of public speaking, because I was completely just, it never in my mind would I ever feel like I was going to be on a stage talking to someone. But when I turned 40, I was like, okay, you are getting over this. And that's what we like to do, right? We like to
Do
self-develop.
hard things. Yeah.
You got to do hard things. You got to showcase to your team that you can do this. And so I got an opportunity to do a TED Talk, locally. And I was like, how the hell am I going to do this? Like, I thought I would just start slow by speaking on panels, because I would always say no when people asked me to speak on panels. And so now I have to do this 15-minute speech with no monitor, nothing, and in front of this audience. And I remember stumbling upon Mel, and she had a course. And so I bought the course immediately. I took it. It was like a week or whatever. And my God, this woman just spoke to me. And then I read her book, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And she was like my champion through that all. When I walked off that stage, it wasn't a perfect performance. I look back and I want to puke, but I felt like I had gotten my cape. So Mel, to me today, a lot of the books that she writes, the things that I love about her is that she takes you down a path where she's telling you her own stories, her own authenticity, her own vulnerability. She's not saying you guys need to do this. She's saying, I went through this. I get it. I know I'm just like you, and here's how I solved it. And so you just feel like, okay, she's authentic because she's telling you her shit. There's nothing that I hate more than meeting a person and they act so perfect. They never tell you their vulnerabilities because they think like you're going to use it against them. And it's like, no, my God, my list of things that I suck at are way bigger than the 5 things I'm good at. Like literally, I know what 5 things those are, and I'm going to lean into them. The rest, I don't care. I suck at it. Just, know. So, her new book's amazing. And I think people see it and go, let them, isn't that like another form of like, F off, I don't care. But it's not, it's so well done. And actually men are loving it too. Cause I think a lot of times they're like, oh, she's female. What is this going to be about? This is a self-worth thing. I don't want to deal with it. Men are loving it too. And the concept around it is great.
Unpack the concept a little bit. And I know, we used it just in conversation. You dropped it just as you were kind of, we were just talking, catching up before we came live. Yeah. Like really unpack it all the way of what it is.
So basically it's, we try to control everybody. We try to control our spouse, our kids, our clients, our teammates. Like, it's mentally exhausting for you to walk around and say, I need to control that situation. So it might be, she uses this example in the book. Her son is going to prom, and she buys like a rose or whatever for his date. And he's like, Mom, she doesn't want one. She's like, oh, but all the girls have them. Well, Mom, she really doesn't want one. So what does Mel do? She packs it in her bag to take to the kids, the girlfriend's house or whatever, just in case. So she's already controlling and steps ahead of what he asked for. They get there. She introduces herself and says, I got you a wrist corsage or whatever they call them. And she's like, great. Well, the girl had already had her own. She wanted to pick her own. So then he's really upset at his mom. And then it starts to rain. Well, all the kids had an appointment to go to this restaurant that was kind of like a drive-through outside type of thing. Mel's freaking out. Their tuxes are going to get all wet. The girl's hair is so she's trying to control the whole situation. In that moment, her daughter says, Mom, let them get wet. Let them have their day. Let her wear one like wrist, whatever flower. So Mel starts to think, oh my God, I'm just a control freak. And I'm the one suffering while they're just like, you're a freak, Mom. So the whole let them theory is just kind of releasing that control. She makes another point that all of her friends were going out. They went on this trip and they didn't invite her. And so she sat on the couch looking at this trip, wondering, what have I done? And why didn't they invite me? And so she's in this thing, wallowing in this concept of like, they're not good friends. When she says in her mind, well, what's my responsibility? Well, I haven't called them. I haven't been present. I haven't been a good friend. So let them, but let me also, detach from this. So it's just mainly about control. All of us want to control every situation and everyone, and we can't. And so it's just a way to release and walk yourself through the next steps.
I love it. And it's just a really good, listening to you kind of share that. a reframe of, control the controllables. Is that within my control? 'Cause other mental models, what else could it mean? Right. Like you saw there's a, what else could it mean? The 100-0 concept of what could I have done? What could I have done better? What could I have done differently? Looking in the mirror first instead of looking out the window. Right. So that's a better relationship with the mirror than the window.
Correct.
So I love it, right? And she's great at it, being able to, to nail these concepts that kind of bundle a bunch of different models, mental models and everything together into just let them. So I love that. And also something you said there too, I cringe, and I wanted to, I was like, hey, wait, I want to share this when we're live. The use of I and the proper way to use it and the improper way to use it, especially as a leader. And the only time to use I from a leadership perspective is when you're being vulnerable. You're being, you're owning it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this lesson. I got it from Brian Moses, and it just is always stuck with me. And it's the I, and he said, next time, pay attention to how many times, if you send an email, you send a message, how many times you use the word I, and how are you using it? And he said, that'll really tell a lot from you as a leader in your leadership style, based upon how you use I. And it's always stung with me. And I notice it in copy, or when people are sending messages over. And the truth is that the only time you use I is when you're taking the blame.
Mm-hmm.
Never in a winning situation. Never in a situation to where, we're thriving. It ain't about you, because at the end of the day, we all have teams. It's always contribution in whatever you do. Tiger Woods even has a team, right? Yeah. So like, obviously he's out there executing, but he ain't getting there without Joey on the bag and all the people that get his body ready to be able to even compete, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's so many we's in anything that we succeed at. But a great leader, like you said, is going to be hey, that's on me. I didn't make the right decision. I didn't go through that. So that was just one of the leadership lessons. Thankful. I wish I would have learned it a lot earlier, but definitely being able to pick up that lesson, along the way.
Oh, 100%. If something goes wrong, the minute it goes wrong, I go, okay, what did I do first? What could I have done better? It's always, it really, and that's healthy. It's like, it is your fault some way, somehow, because maybe you didn't do the thing right away, or other people were involved, but what could we help solve next time for that not to happen? So it's just solving. But yeah, I definitely, even in videos, like I found myself preaching, years ago, and I'd be like, you guys need it. And now it's like, no, the reason I'm sharing this is I actually went through this. I had these struggles. And if you're having the same struggles, here's how I helped myself, and maybe it'll help you. And I think that's what Mel does so beautifully. It's like, she talks about her issues, and it pulls you right into the stories and the vulnerability. And leaders have to be vulnerable, because they're actually probably the most imperfect ones. But they just had enough guts to stand in front of a room and share their imperfectness. So, yeah. I
think we're just, because, just so conditioned with everything that, we're inundated with, right? With, that the 80% of information that, we're consuming, what's real, like trust is so low. And I think it's my favorite definition of trust is just authenticity times time, vulnerability times time. And, talking to agents, man, I'm just not, gaining enough momentum in the market. Are we staying consistent? Have we, put in enough time? Are we being genuine? Are we being authentic? Are we being real? Because, that, BS detector is at an all-time high, right? And the guard is way up. And so I think it's so important to just be genuine, just be authentic. And the reality is, it'll all come out at some point, right? There's no hiding anything anymore. And so it's just be genuine, be authentic. Is much healthier way to live anyways.
Well, especially now, when I think people are being sold something everywhere they go, right? They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're at the store. But years past, you weren't getting sold so much. Now you're getting sold from everywhere you land. And I think that's where the trust is dissolved. Like, coming from contribution for the first 4 or 5 years I was here at EXP, I didn't sell one product. I didn't have one product. I didn't have anything to sell, and everything was free. I finally had one little product, $97 little thing, because it's like people kept asking me the same question over and over again. And even though I sold that, I remember somebody saying, "Oh, now she's selling something." That was what I heard. And it's like, that's where you go, let them. Like, I have given so much in the past 5 years. Now I'm selling something, and there's always a negative, comment out there. But it just, another thing I'll touch on before we wrap up is that exact thing of, don't worry about what people say about you. The comments that you get on social media. I even heard the other day, there's something called toxic positivity. I don't know if you've heard that, but now there's, of course, these negative people that are like, don't be so toxically positive. And I'm like, if we've gotten to that point, I know, like, okay, like, now I'm just like, I've had it. So,
Yeah.
so I think it's like we've lost our way so much that I just really don't care anymore. Like, wholeheartedly, I don't care what people think. I care that I'm my authentic self, and I know what I'm doing is hopefully helpful, and that's all I can depend on.
Yeah. It's, did I do my best? Did
Yeah,
I, keep the promises that I make to myself? Am I being, authentic? Am I being genuine? And I think, at the end of the day, you're able to lay your head on the pillow, and knowing that, you did your best, you did the right thing. I tell you, one of the ones that the books that I reread at the end of last year was, I went back and reread the Four Agreements,
mm,
and man, it's just so good.
so good.
Definitely the first one of, just make your word impeccable,
Yeah,
and being careful of what you're promising, and um, not promising. And I think that goes back to what you said at the beginning is, just saying no more. That's definitely, I mean, obviously the flip side, you're trying to hustle, right? You got to, have to say yes until you have to say no. And I think you get yourself into a point to where, all right, it's time to say no. Less is more. And I really think that is the case going into, the new year here is, finding that one path, and being more, more intentional of what we're trying to accomplish.
I agree. I agree. Let's make this our year of peace and prosperity, John.
I love it. Tina, you're amazing. Thank you, again, for another, amazing episode of Expert Mentors Live. And, just looking back, I mean, I kicked off the year again with GoGo, and we were talking, and it was our 6th year of that episode. And I'm like, it seems like not 6 years ago that
No,
we've been running this Expert Mentor series. We're episode 282, and the 7-year run has been remarkable, and not slowing down. That's for
no,
sure.
I love
We're
it.
gonna
I
keep it
just feel like
rolling.
picking back up. So I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
awesome. Tina, thank you so much, and
John, happy New
appreciate you guys. Awesome. We'll see you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.